It does.
If you're in the hobby industry, is a big difference than if you're a consultant or if you're making mainstream business software. There's a lot of difference. And a lot of it depends. No problem. And a lot of it depends on your business skill.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I could probably right now start a company part-time while doing mine. But when you're a startup, when you are at the very beginning of your process, you probably don't, if you're coming from my perspective as an engineer, coming from many of the people here's perspective as an engineer or an IT guy, you probably don't have a lot of business skills. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so at that point, I'm going to say that you can't do it part-time with no prior startup experience and grow to the rate that you're going to go. Or you can, but I see a lot of people die. A lot of people die because they say, well, I'm doing well, I'm doing well, I'm doing too well, but not well enough to ditch. And at that point, they're squeezed for time, and the only thing that's really, really valuable in a startup is time. So anyway, I'm going to go back to my experiences. You know, this is kind of how I'm going to run the talk. Is I will kind of talk on my experiences for a while, what I learned personally, and then try to generalize. And if people want to disagree with me, then I'll roll with that. Okay, so 2004, I'd graduated. No job, no prospects, no, you know, I've got a little gold star saying, yeah, you're real smart. So what did I do? I moved back with my parents. That was the hardest thing I have ever done personally, just for my pride.
You and 70% of every other college graduate.
Yeah, but me and 70%. I got a degree in fucking engineering. The whole social contract was, you get a degree in engineering, you get a job. You get a degree in engineering, you get a job. Didn't happen, didn't work out. But the point of moving back in with my parents is I didn't see any other way that I could cut my living expenses low enough to pull off startupping while doing it. So one of the important things to remember is you have to go all in, even if you're doing it part-time. You have to be willing to say, this is what I'm doing, and this is where it's going, and I'm not being a pussy about it. I will do whatever I have to do to make this thing work, because if you're willing to do whatever you have to do to make the thing work, the thing isn't going to work, and the thing isn't going to work because all there is you. So we moved back in with my parents. We started business planning. Or I moved back in with my parents, rather. Yeah, fortunately, my business partner, his parents are somewhat wealthier than mine, so they were just like, here, have some money, live. Not jealous at all, whatever. So then we started doing research. And it's important, in my opinion, to do your research and do your even early product development before you start, because once you start, once orders start pouring in, if your ducks aren't relatively in a row, and they won't be, but if you're still trying to do research, at that point you are in somewhat trouble because you're trying to answer phones, you're trying to fill orders. There's going to be a period of time between I'm open for business and I have people for that. And during that time, the amount of actual technical work you can do is depressingly, depressingly low. So if you're ready or looking to start a tech startup like we were, you need to have your tech kind of going before your startup kind of goes, because honestly, even now, my company's 5 people right now. I spend maybe 25% of my time doing engineering, maybe. I agree, but
If you're running the company, that's what you're doing. I mean, that's the unfortunate part.
yeah.
The more you become a manager, the less actual real stuff you do.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you 100%. But if you're making a tech-based startup, your tech is where you're going from. And if your tech is where you're going from, your tech has to be better than the next guy. Part of when you're starting up is you need to pick a niche, and you need to pick a niche where you can beat the established competition with both hands tied behind your back. Not even one hand.
I'd disagree.
Stop it. Okay. Disagreeing is good.
About necessarily saying your tech has to be better than it.
Okay.
It depends. I mean, kind of the key example there is McDonald's makes really horrible, crappy hamburgers, but they're everywhere because they have really good business processes. So if you can deliver consistent products that are mediocre, frankly, a lot of times that'll take over in the market opposed to developing a superior product, but that you can't deliver consistency on a wide scale.
But your tech isn't your product in that point. Your tech is your business process.
Okay, fair enough.
You have to find, what can I beat the established people, what can I beat with both hands tied behind my back? because one hand, I don't know how to manage and I don't know how to run a business. Other hand, I have no money versus the guy who's been established for 10 years. So now who can I kind of kick to death? So one of the great things about now, as opposed to 50 years ago, is the internet, honestly, lets you be much nichier, especially at first, than, you don't like nichier as a word?
I love it.
Okay, you can be much nichier. Absolutely. You can be much nichier than you could have been when your customer base was the guys who can drive to me. And that's good because you can find a little niche where there's maybe one guy who hasn't improved in 20 years, he's kind of complacent, and you can go beat him. And that's, in my opinion, unless you have buku bucks and million-dollar venture capitalists and 4 successful businesses started to your name, in which case, what the hell are you at my talk for? That you need to beat somebody who you can beat hobbled, completely hobbled, because right now, my business could beat another business, even if they had better tech, like you said, because we know what we're doing now, versus we didn't 3 years ago. When you start, you are not going to know what you're doing. You are kind of going to be fumbling and groping, and you need to have something where it's so good that you can beat people who actually know what they're doing while you fake it. And 2004, we started up. We actually had no revenue in 2004. We incorporated, we got facilities, we got processes. We actually manufacture all of our products in-house. And right now we make about 2,500 little electronic boards a month. And so we had to learn how you do that because I'm a mechanical engineer, my business partner's an electrical engineer. Neither of us has any manufacturing experience. So that's what we were doing in 2004. We were setting up, we were ready to go. Come 2005, our business plan said, hey, you're supposed to be selling, selling, selling. And we're like, well, shit, we ain't even got products. So your business plan is a lie, but if your business plan doesn't say, I'm going to be rich next year, you're not going to, never. What, our products are the most...
Handmade? Are they made in Malaysia? Or how do you...
No, our products are made in Akron, Ohio. We have an automated SMT line. We stuff them, we test them, we make them. Our products are neither the cheapest nor the most expensive. Our niche is we try to be easier to use. Our goal, our end user is mostly research, students, hobbyists, hackers. And most of them don't know everything there is to know about electronics. And even if they do, they don't care. What we try to do is we try to make our products easier to use than the next guy. If the next guy's going to take 4 hours to set up, ours drops in, you flip 2 switches, and it goes. That's kind of the niche we've tried to get into in power electronics. And the reason we got into our niche is because what was there sucked. It sucked to the point where we could beat them with both hands tied behind our back. And at this point, we're kind of established. But no, our particular niche, we try to compete a little bit on price only because our competition is hand-assembled for the most part, especially in the hobby robotics part. And we are being machine-built. We can eat their lunch on cost. We also, because we're doing it full-time, much of our competition is doing it kind of, well, I make a couple of them in my spare time in my basement. And because of that, they're using very integrated solutions. They're using driver chips where we're building the whole thing out of FETs. You know, our time into a product that they might have spent 100 hours designing is 2,000 hours. But as a result, our per unit, we can eat their lunch. But price is not the way to compete because if all you've got is price, China can beat you on price. China can always beat you on price, regardless of how clever you are, because exactly, it is a bad game to play. If you say, yeah, if you say my goal, my plan, what I can do better is I can be cheaper, come up with a new plan. It's an excellent, excellent point. You can come over here. We don't have our stuff manufactured in China because there is a major knockoff industry, especially in the RC airplane stuff, in China. Exactly. Right. The Chinese manufacturers are very, very good at being very, very lazy, which is not a bad thing. Laziness is good. If you can be lazy and win, you should be because it's cheaper. But
it's true. They don't invent other things in other countries. They steal ours and make it better.
It's true. They don't even necessarily make it better. But we've had competitors who've said, hey, I'm going to have my stuff manufactured. It's a $30 product. all of a sudden you say, wow, there are $10 exact clones coming out of China. How the hell did that happen?
Can they buy one of yours now and knock it off?
They can, but they don't. Because if you send them the schematics, the boards, the everything, it's much cheaper to say, well, take the one from the competitor who has said, make it in China. If China knows how to make it, because you gave them all the information to make it, they're just going to make an extra couple thousand, an extra 100,000, yeah.
I'm doing research on hardware keyloggers. I noticed some of the ones I'm getting are from foreign countries, and the IC chips have been sanded off, so I can't see what part numbers are actually in them.
Yeah.
Is that one reason they do that, is to keep people from easily cloning them?
That's why people do that. It's not really that great an idea because there's a giant cloning stuff industry in China. So if they want to clone it, they're going to. You can't prevent that. But the reason we manufacture in-house is mostly so we don't get knocked off, and partially because that's just kind of the way I work. Is I prefer to have control over the whole process, and I prefer to have, well, if it can be made, I'll make it, instead of some guys, well, these are our manufacturing tolerances, and you can't do anything weird. We manufacture in-house so it doesn't get ripped off, and we manufacture in-house so we can do weird stuff. And we do some weird stuff simply because partially we didn't know that we shouldn't have done the weird stuff, and partially because
It's fun.
it's because it's fun, yes. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that. So in 2005, we were growing exponentially. So our growth rate was great. Our absolute numbers were small. The entire year of 2005, we did about $35,000 in sales, which was not, business plan said, hey, you're supposed to be making $250,000, but the business plan lies. The business plan is a convenient lie that says, if everything goes well and I know what I'm doing, here's what I'm doing. If that doesn't, if your business plan numbers aren't great and huge and grand, your real numbers won't work. But I'm going to share with you a little story from 2005, which is a little bit about being a startup and a little bit about the industry I'm in. 2005, August, September, we were doing about $5,000 a month in sales, which is not, and we were making like $250 as a month in salary, but we were growing. Then you had a couple of hurricanes hit. We're in the hobby industry. We're in the research industry. We are completely based on discretionary income. The price of gas went from, what, like $1.80 to $3.25. In the month of September, we had done $5,000 in sales. We had about $5,000 in the bank, and we were burning through about $5,000 a month. In the month following, right after Hurricane Rita hit, the first 3 weeks of the month, we did $500 in sales. And our cash position went down to just about nothing. We were honestly looking at, okay, do we sell the equipment? Do we go get real jobs? Are we fucked? What's going on here? And what was going on was the price of gas. The price of gas, our customers aren't really, all of our markets that we go into, people have discretionary income. They could have afforded to buy our products, but consumer confidence and the sentiment was, well, is gas going to be $5 a month, dollars a gallon next week? Maybe. So nobody was buying anything. And so November, we were like, well, if this doesn't improve, we're literally dead. Fortunately, we went to an event, and I was talking to other people kind of in the same industry, and they're like, yeah, nobody's sold anything this month. So that made me feel a little bit better. But that was the closest we ever came to being completely out of business, and it had nothing to do with anything we were necessarily doing wrong. It was hurricane blew through. People said, well, I'm not going to buy any motor drivers or anything along those lines because I just paid a lot of money for gas. As a startup, you are perpetually on the risk of death, the brink of death, and it doesn't take anything more than that to kill you. And honestly, at that point, we got lucky. We got lucky that gas prices went back down, they fixed the refineries, and we were under $1,000 in cash reserve when things started picking up again. Yeah. Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Okay. So that was 2005. 2006, we were still continuing to grow. We